Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? Good Wednesday, everybody. I hope you've had a good week so far. It is what it is, right? It is what it is. Anyway, first things first, coffee. Got to be done. I can't even start the day without a coffee. Hope you're all good. Trying an experiment today, gang. What I've done on my Facebook page, I'm going to put it up on here in a minute, is that if you want to be part of the show, and yet, in the immortal words of Mick Jagger, all right, New York, you talk a lot. Let's take a look at you. He doesn't actually talk like that, but it's kind of like that. You got the link. Just click on the link. I'm going to put it up in a second. But before we do that, the most important thing. He is the love god of New Malden. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Neil.
The love god of New Malden. I've been called many things.
Come
never
on.
the love god of New
It's
Malden.
good, isn't it? It's good. It's good, don't you think? What do we
It
got?
is good. Good afternoon. Welcome to Men's Radio.
Good.
Welcome
You're
to
so
NRS.
professional. I love the way you do that. You're so professional. Barry J. Allen, I hope you're coming through. You went through a lousy patch, so I hope he's feeling a bit better.
Hi,
and
Barry.
everything.
Good to have you tuned in. Hi, Julie Voice.
Oh,
Houston. Forecast is 83 and sunny.
Shut
My
up,
goodness
Julie
me.
Voice. I don't like you. You're getting
Julie
on my
Voice, I never
nerves.
liked you.
Never liked her.
It's blooming
Look at this.
freezing here.
Do you know what I hate about England and London? I just saying that is you open the curtains, right? No light change at all. You open them like
Yeah, greeting another beautiful.
oh crap, and it just makes you feel. You know, when I spend a lot of time in Los Angeles, I do much less now because I lost both my best friends out there are dead, which has upsets me all the time. I'll be honest with you. One was my very best friend, but they were both very, very close to me. And you open the curtains, the sky is blue, and you think today is going to be great, and you just feel uplifted. It's true, and I'm really giving a lot of thought. Do I really want to be here anymore? Do I want to be here at all? Do I want to be here anymore? Your mate, there he is.
Robert Van Buren, our resident horologist.
Yes, and from New York City. Yeah, you see, I'd never live in New York. I used to work there, and I had a fantastic time. Off my face most of the time, but I'll never go. I can't go into that. Dank, dark, and wet. Oh, don't think of yourself like. Oh, sorry, misunderstood. And have here. Good morning, English looking. Yeah, it's horrible. When New York is very extreme. Oh, hang on. Would you like to read this? This looks good.
I will. I'm liking the sound of this from Luke Newman. Good afternoon, gents. I've got some excellent news. I've secured more funding. That means in 2023, for Men to Talk, we'll have 124 meetings. There's 124 opportunities for men to be able to discuss their mental health. That's fantastic.
How fantastic is that? He works like a little demon. And let's go to northeastern United States. Good day all, says Azadon Brown.
Good day, all.
Aza, if you don't come on as a guest soon,
and Lisa James. Good afternoon, both.
Michael Verby, who is in the south of Spain, always makes me laugh. His dad and my dad were best buds. That's how far back we go. I knew Michael from baby.
I'm reading that comment. Put that one on the screen, would you?
Which
Russ?
one's that one?
From Cheeky Chops. Good afternoon. Light of my life and love God of New Malden. That's God with a capital G to you, if you don't mind.
Well, that's very, very, very.
Can I share something quickly?
Go ahead. I'm in no rush today.
Because it does tie into mental health, because being scammed can affect mental health, right?
Go on.
There's a channel called Scammer Payback, and it
I
was
love it.
brilliant.
I love that channel. I do love it.
You know of which I speak, yeah?
Yeah, go ahead. I love it. Right. It's great.
And they do one of two things. Either they will waste scammers' time, which is another little hobby of mine. Because I got, I'll have to send you one of my scammer wind-up calls. Maybe we could put a link to it. Because over lockdown, there was loads of scammers coming through, and I was bored and alone, and I just spent time winding them up and wasting their time so they couldn't steal from people.
Good for you.
So I shall send you some of those because they're pretty funny if I say so myself. However, he'll either pretend to be an old lady and keep them on the phone for about 3 hours.
The guy with the blue hair. Blue hair. Who's
at the same time he's doing that and wasting their time. He's deleting all their files.
Vera, can you you want me to press what? And they're getting
you
must listen to me. Listen to me. They all come from India. Hilarious.
He's deleting their files, and then there's that wonderful penny drop moment when they realise they've lost all their data. But they did something even better than that the other day. They actually saw a lady being scammed. This is what I wanted to share. And she got as far as to go to the bank, and she's sitting in the bank office transferring funds. and they walk in and kind of do, if you like, a reverse sting operation, but in a good way, and stopped her being scammed. First, she's angry, and then she's really sad. And she said, and this is the point I want to make, she said, I'm an intelligent woman, which she was. I've got a degree, she said. And they said, it doesn't matter. Anyone can be scammed. Even this intelligent, working mum, degree sporting woman could be fooled by these scammers. And they literally stopped it happening. It turned into a beautiful moment because she would have lost thousands of dollars.
I love it. There's this guy. He's got blue hair.
So don't get scammed.
We try not to get scammed, but it's so. And he just, not only does he go in there, he's so smart. He's like a computer genius, but he comes across deliberately as an idiot, and he wastes their time. He gets them into a fury. They're all in India, 100%. Yes. And don't think it's somebody sitting in their mum's spare bedroom. These are offices.
They're criminal gangs operating in offices.
The best one was he got the police and the whole thing on because he got into their cameras.
Yeah, I know.
And you saw the police come and arrest the whole bloody lot of them. Good, because it's this guy. They're crooks.
I had a text from my daughter yesterday saying, "Hi, Dad. Here's my new phone number." Now she doesn't talk that way, and she doesn't call me Dad. That's not her nickname for me. So I'm like, that's not her.
Does she call you Mr. Long? It's quite formal.
So I texted her to make sure. And as I suspected, it wasn't her. So I'm just waiting to have a little bit of fun with them at the moment.
How you got to be very careful. You really got to know what you're doing. Of course, that's the thing. You got to know what you're doing. You can't just
things to watch out for. Basic things are they try and scare you into doing something. You're about to be arrested. Your account's been compromised. Your money's unsafe. Anything to make you panic. And as we know, when we panic, the front part of our brain shuts down and we don't make rational decisions. And that's exactly what they want. So. Nationwide have got a brilliant campaign. Take 5 minutes, make a cup of tea, and think. And then and that is literally all it needs to go. Wait a minute, this is rubbish. Generally, the English tends to be bad as well, and they tend to ingratiate you. They either call you dear or talk about God a lot and how you're doing God's holy work.
Dear. Hello, dear. No, dear. No. You're pressing the wrong thing. And they're getting so crazy, but they're trying to be polite, but they're going crazy. This is from somebody obviously watching, I would imagine, on my Espresso Bar page. You're very, very welcome. The worst is from the post office. I've had this, saying they're trying to deliver a parcel. And then, this one. And then it goes, how does it go? You fill it in for delivery. And at the end, they ask for £1. Boom, that's it. Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, they've got your details and they take considerably more than that. That's
now, what I've got up on screen, folks. Jesus, what's the matter with me today? What I've got up on screen is the link that you can join Neil and myself.
Yeah, come and join us.
That's what you do. I never do this. And you can come on, and if we like the look of you, no trainers, mate.
No chat.
My son was told. My son went to a club. My son never goes clubbing. When he did, the bloke on the door built like what barn door, going, "Oi, no bubbles." So my son, Oxford educated, goes, "Sorry, no bubbles." In other words, no Air Jordans. No bubbles, mate.
I don't even understand.
Let's have some romance and some glamour. Good afternoon,
Françoise Pascal. Mon chéri. Good afternoon, my lovely guys.
Francois, the thing about Francoise, will slippers be okay? Yeah, obviously. No, in your case, mules. Bet your mum wore mules. Thing about Françoise Pascal, I got to tell you something. She's so honest in her postings. You know, Facebook. Some of it you think, I'm having a fabulous life. My life's shit. Their life's great. Look at all this crap. And blah, 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 blah. No, not at all. She's very, very honest. Let's bring on the first person to take up the offer is, hang on, just before we go that, in from Houston, highly intelligent, respected, 37K. Jesus Christ.
That's the thing.
I was right. I knew it.
The thing is, what these scammers will do.
I knew it. Oh,
what these scammers will do is play on your fears. And the thing is, they're really good at it. And I'm not giving them compliments. They're very, very good. I watched the style of when the guy with the blue hair was getting them back, and they didn't know they were being scammed at this point. But I was listening to them, the scammers.
Yeah.
And they're clever. and they know what they're
very,
doing, and
they're very smart.
they will play into any weakness you've got.
Oh, completely.
The guy with the blue hair pretended, "Will you call me Mama?" And the guy says, "Of course I'll call you Mama if that makes you happy, my dear." You know that thing.
He puts on this voice, which is pretty
That's
much
it. It's old lady voice. What's that, dear?
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
dear. Can you speak up a little bit? Can you
It's
speak
Scammer
up?
Payback. It's worth watching on YouTube.
Just
It's
marvelous.
really, really good.
Look at this one, Luke. We're coming to you in one
I'd like
second.
to get on here.
This is great. I got what's this? I got scammed. Blue flashing light on my computer. What the hell's a message from God, Elizabeth? I followed directions. It said otherwise computer would go down. Paid. Oh my God. I paid a few $100s to get it up and running. Bank gave you the money back. Well, that's very lucky. We got blackmailed at one of the charities of which I was a trustee. There was a huge row. We got blackmailed. What do they call it? Cyber ransom. The cyber ransom, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow they got in.
Holding your data hostage, basically.
Yeah, and we had
or saying they had.
It's disgusting. You know,
did they actually have your data, or did they just pretend to?
No, they had it. Luke, hello there, fella. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
We're all right. Thank you for taking up our invitation. You're the first person.
Welcome.
Tell us what happened. This is excellent. Luke's been a guest in the past. This is Luke Newman, who often comments. He's followed the little instruction there, and here he is. Bingo, like magic there.
I'd like to hear, Luke, about your mental health work, actually, first of all. While we've got you, how did you get into it, and what is this charity that you run?
So I run a group called For Men to Talk. We're about to celebrate our 3-year anniversary, actually. So from my background, I suffer with grief anxiety from losing both my mum and sister over the last 17 years. But I can talk about my anxiety, my mental health illness to anyone in the street, like, you know, not just my family and friends. But I know that it's hard for us men to do that. So I formed For Men to Talk, like I said, December of 2019. And it's been growing ever since. So far this year, we've had over 1,300 attendees to our meetings.
That is fantastic. Don't just sail past that, Luke, because I remember when you came on, and it was, I think, pretty early on in the days of MRS, and I think this was just an idea for you.
Yeah. And
boo, you know, it's living testament, Neil, that you can have an idea. And instead of just sitting with it and going, "Oh, I don't know what I'm going," get off your ass, give it a go. Look what Luke's achieved.
And put it out in the world. And it's so good. It's so good for people to know. I mean, number one, it's great that you're so open. And I think if I'm talking about mental health, it's only fair that I be open. I had a real dip in my mental health a couple of years ago, and a lot better now. But to know that I wasn't the only one. I also felt as a guy, I don't know if you felt this, that as a guy I'm supposed to have all the answers all the time to everything immediately, perfectly, and now. And then, of course, beating myself up because nobody has that.
Because you don't.
Yeah, exactly. And I think answers do come, but they tend to unfold. They tend to unfold sort of in the process of life and healing and whatever. That's been my experience, but it's not sort of one, you know, magic zap from an angel, and it's all solved. So what kind of thing do you talk most about at these groups? What's the most common thing that's troubling men nowadays?
A lot of people are still feeling a bit isolated from the pandemic.
Yeah.
A lot of relationship breakdowns. Also,
what are they? I'm going to bring on. This is great. So thank you, folks. Let's bring on Dave Sleet to add to the conversation.
Oh, he's another good lad. Hello, mate.
Dave, turn it landscape. Can you do it?
There we go.
That's better.
I feel sick now.
No, that's just.
It's just not doing it for you.
No, turn it, not you, landscape, it.
No, you have to go like that. So let me tell you. Let me ask you a couple of questions here. Welcome along, Dave. But before we go any further, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? Dave is not that well. Put it mildly.
Today's a good day.
Thank goodness. I know. Some days he can't get out of bed. Bless him. Bless him. You guys, I'm going to just jump in for a second. Both of you don't know each other properly, but both of you are heroes, as far as I'm concerned. Seriously, you have taken something, and instead of sitting on your asses, you've run with it. You've given it a go. You've put your own time, your own money, your own energy into it. And in both your cases, it's been an absolute rocket ride of a success. and you're both to be hugely congratulated, because the difference that you make, even if it's chipping at a mountain bit by bit by bit, it makes a difference.
It
really
does.
So
And you
well
never
done.
know when these videos are going to be watched. Someone could be watching it live now. For all I know, this could be watched in 20 years' time. And it could be just what that person needs to hear on that day, which sets them on a healing pathway, and they know everything's going to be all right again. Back to you for a second, Luke. So you say relationship breakdowns and isolation is the main problem at the moment?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what else is really common is it's work. You know, the pressures of work, but a lot of men, when they come into, you know, the age range we get really is like the early 30s, 40s, 50s, and some even older than that. But it's that stage of their life where, you know, what do they want to do in their life, their career, and they're still questioning what they want to do. So that brings a lot of mental health issues there, because they just worry about, and again, in this climate we live in at the moment, financial reasons.
Do they think that they're doing the wrong thing, or do they think, because you've had over 1,000 people come on, so you've got a good kind of benchmark to make some decisions or get some info. Do they think, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life? Or, as I always think, there's got to be more to life than this, because this is driving me.
I've got an opinion, but I'm going to let Luke answer first, because I've got
and then Dave.
It's maybe a bit of both. Again, some people may have had that same career for 20 years or 20, 30 years and gone, is this really what I want to do till I retire?
Yeah.
You know, is there something else? You know, and again, it took me 38 years to realise that I wanted to work in mental health, and it's changed my life.
Right.
You know,
exactly, because you were brave enough to take a decision to follow your heart and to do what you really wanted to do, and that is a brave decision. I think there's one of those wisdom quotes that you see on a fridge. It's difficult to be yourself in a world that conspires to make you anything but, or to make you someone else. Yeah, wise man once said.
That's weird, because mine just says, remember to get toilet rolls. That's all it says at my fridge.
But
that's what I write.
But the thing is, as men, and actually women as well, we all do what we think we should do. We tick all the boxes. We go to college. We get the grades. We, you know, may or may not get married. You know, provide and do all the things that we should do, which society says leads to a good life. But if that's the case, then why are so many people discontented? Clearly, there's something that we're missing. But then people come up against this dilemma. I know it's not this, but what is it? And then to achieve whatever that is, if you even knew what it was, you've got to do something different. But you may not have that knowledge necessary yet to do that something different. Is that a fair assessment of the dilemma, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you what else is what I'm finding as well is that with For Men to Talk, especially, we have our meetings at 6 p.m. And what a lot of people think is when people have a mental health illness, they don't work. That's it. You know, they sit at home, feeling a bit down, and that's it.
Not at
all.
A
lot of, especially men, who are still in full-time work. It's interesting because I work for Mind BMLK, but I'm embedded in the mental health team at the NHS. And we're seeing that need where, you know, men and females are going, well, I'd like to talk to him into groups and have some therapy, but I work from 9 till 5. You know, so a lot of people are saying that are open up going, it may be a work issue, it may be something else. I want to be able to talk about it, but I need to have that opportunity to talk away from work, after work, or at the weekends. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people are struggling with as well.
No, let me read this out from Francois Pascal.
There is so much need for this. We could do a whole series.
Stay there, boys.
On this.
Stay there, boys.
I think I'm going to get sponsorship. I want to do a whole series on this with your permission, Russ. I think men talking about their depression is fantastic. My late partner never wants to talk about his depression and his work and money situation. He used to bottle everything in. Result, he died of a massive heart attack. Now, I don't know whether his depression caused his heart attack, but men should talk to their partners always. It's that bottling thing up. Yeah, because emotion, energy in motion. In other words, it's supposed to move. But people think I'm not allowed to express that. I shouldn't express that. I've got to put on my poker face. I've got to tick all the boxes, do all the shoulds, hold it in. It doesn't bloody work. I'm not having a go at you, Francois. I'm agreeing with you.
But Neil, we're conditioned as men
massively
not to talk. But we're also educated indirectly that when we do talk, we're not listened to because nobody's got time to hear us when we're young. And this is where the whole grow a pair kind of attitude,
man up,
all of that gets bedded in. And men take 20, 30, 40 years to realize that, hold on, we were told not to talk because nobody had time to listen to us. It's not about men won't talk because, as Luke said, men are desperate to talk.
Yeah.
It's that they don't feel they're going to be listened to. They're going to be judged. They're not going to be heard. And if they're not going to be heard, what does anybody do? Stop talking.
I think it
I
comes
think
off
we
the
have
back
to
of.
we have to give it. Hang on a sec. I just want to
Sorry,
leap in because I think we have to give it some contextualization here. My dad's generation, all right, because I'm older than you guys, obviously went through the war. They fought in the war, and so when you're about to have your head blown off and you're seeing horrific things, and my dad would never talk about it, ever.
And that would be an element of protection for the
Yeah,
people
I get that.
are
But
around
my
them.
point is this. This is my point. You go through all of that nightmare and somebody's saying, oh, I'm a bit depressed today. You go, well, sod off. You know, I've just seen my best mate get cut in half by machine gun fire or something ghastly.
But trauma
So
is
there
trauma.
is that. No, I know. But you
I
understand
agree
where
with
that
you.
came from historically.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I agree with you. I wasn't saying I
That's
disagree.
what I'm saying. So
I'm just-
therefore,
no, I
he
agree.
was very much a, bottle it all in, which didn't do well because I watched him drop from a heart attack when I was a little boy. That was fun. And I'd forgotten all of that until it was the memory came back. Anyway, but there we are. Now, and the balance is, both of you guys, you don't want to be like California. The wind changes. Oh, my God, I'm falling to pieces. I got to go and see my therapist. Shut up. You can't be that fragile, or just stay at home, lock the doors, and never talk to anybody, you idiot. So there is a balance. There is a balance.
You know from previous conversations that psychological awareness equals resilience. And whatever an individual's trauma is, whatever their experience is, it's theirs, and it doesn't compare to the variables for somebody else. And it should never be tried to compete against.
You're right. You're right. Two things spring out to me here. Number one is trauma trumps. You sometimes get people who literally say, well, my wound's worse than yours because, and it's almost like a badge of honor.
Rubbish, isn't it?
Yeah, which it makes no sense at all. And also what you're right, pain is pain of any kind. And someone might overcome something and write a brilliant self-help book when they turn the healing corner. I like that phrase. But that would only be for people in a similar or same
look at these guys. Look what these guys
in the
have
same
achieved.
situation. Yeah. But those books and even the best work in the world doesn't appeal to everybody. Everyone is so bespoke. And even people like you guys are doing what me and Russ are doing, we can't appeal to everyone because that's just not possible. It's
So
best to appeal to
boys, here's a question for you.
need what you've got.
Here's a question for both of you. I'm going to ask Dave and then Luke chime in, okay? And then Neil, obviously.
Okay.
What happens when you meet somebody and they're not in a good way and they say, there is nothing out there that can help me? What do you do?
When have you had time to try everything?
Well, I've been through it. Supposing I'd had that conversation with somebody. Supposing. So this is hypothetical.
It's a good question.
And this is
What
the
do you
thing.
do? How do you get them? How do you get them better? How do you move them on?
Okay, so ultimately, the perception that they have that nothing they have tried has worked.
Correct.
Yeah.
But they haven't tried everything because the possibilities are infinite.
Precisely.
So they it's their perception that is warped and has, in essence, the negative experience has become a heavier anchor than what they're actually dealing with.
Maybe. Not quite sure I go along with all of that.
Because ultimately, the more times you try something and your perception is it doesn't work, is you become stuck with nothing works rather than what you actually started.
So, Luke, let me ask you this, and this must have come up with over 1,000 people that have attended your meetings.
Yeah, very much so.
At what point can you? It's a friend of mine. It's a dear friend of mine who's going through bad shit. All right. And I'm being very selfish here. I'm being really utterly transparent. Doesn't matter who it is. It's a dear friend of mine who is convinced there's no help. And I want to know that I've done everything that I can. I'm being honest, and I'm being very selfish because I do not want to spend the rest of my life. God forbid anything terrible happens.
Not selfish.
But Neil, we beat ourselves up. I mean, I'm being brutally honest here. I'm not being BBC. I'm just being Russ. And
I don't think that's selfish at all.
And it's like I want to be able to look myself in the mirror and go, you know what? You did everything you could. You can't regret. You can't beat yourself up. What can you do? What can you do when you're standing on the sidelines? You're watching a train crash. What can you do?
For me, we're meant to talk, and it's really interesting what Elizabeth said there about compassion. Is being an active listener, being compassionate, but no judgments. It's also important to have a safe, comfortable environment. With our groups, we don't try and have it such as a school hall with plastic chairs and plastic tables, those dinner tables. I'd like to be a comfortable where they could be in a nice, cozy chair, where they talk about how they're feeling. But I always say, I talk about avenues, and when I mean by avenues, it's knowing where to turn to when things get dark. So you actually signpost them, say, look, you can come to talk for me to talk. With the 128 meetings we've got next year, for that reason, they've got 128 times opportunities for that. But it's also...
It's fantastic, by the way. Really.
You
can't let that slip by. I mean, you're a one-man band.
Yeah. But I enjoy what I do.
You're a one-man band. It's fantastic what you've done.
But then there's also avenues, as I say, there's A&E, accident emergency. There's all the other men's charities out there. I'm talking from a men's point of view, I think, at the moment. Is all those men's charities. There's the Andy Man Club. There's the Man Caves, what are locally. There's these walk and talks that are about now.
Yeah, walk and talk.
These groups, but also Samaritans, any kind of those supports. Because what we've got to learn is that we're not competitors. We're actually... at all. That's a lot of people think that in companies, though, are they competitors? We're not competitors. We're just a different option for a man to be able to talk. And that's what I try and do in all our meetings. Say, look, there's this place, there's that place, there's this place, there's that place.
Yes.
Because it gives them that opportunity.
Signposting is very, very important. Basically, that's what we do here. Because neither myself or Phil Dave or you, Neil, unless you are a qualified doctor, we don't give advice.
But it's also interesting what you said earlier on as well, is that right now we have to do what we're doing. The ideal opportunity now is to make this compulsory at a young age, where children actually do actively talk about how they're feeling in schools, but at home. I have mental health check-ins with all my 3 sons every single week, just checking in to see how they are. And Russ,
what do they do? What do they do? Look, when you phone up and you go, I don't know what your son's name are, don't tell us. And you go, hello, X. How are you? And they go, yeah, I'm fine, Dad. Yeah, fine. What do you do?
Well, I'm quite fortunate. My sons are still at home. So I sit down on a chair and I say to them, look, just to check in, how are things for you? How's school going? Is there anything you're concerned about at school? Are you being bullied? And honestly, it's amazing. And because they've grown up with me talking about how I'm feeling, I've got a 23-year-old son and also 12-year-old twin boys. They've grown up with me at 8 or 9 years old.
Was the television not working that day?
Because they know
that it's switch it off and come and speak to me. Absolutely, but
they know that it's okay. They know it's okay to be feeling these things. What's that song that made number one a few weeks ago? LF System, Afraid to Feel. I think so many of us are afraid to feel certain things.
Get you with your modern music reference.
We shouldn't. It's a great song. I think we shouldn't feel it.
Picking Witch and Lieutenant Pigeon.
We think we shouldn't feel it. Or other people will judge us for it, and that just makes you shove it down even more. And I've taken to ask, which doesn't work, and I've taken to asking my daughter. I say, "How's your well-being?" And nothing wrong with my parents at all. They were great parents, but that would have not even been in their lexicon. Say, "How's your well-being?"
My dad would have said, "What the bloody hell are you talking about, stupid sod?" And that would have been the end of the conversation. I promise you, that would have been the whole end of the conversation. And then he would have finished it with, I've never heard such bloody nonsense in all my life. And then he would have walked out to watch the horse racing.
And it's like Carl Rogers said a long time ago, if you create the conditions for growth, you'll get growth. And what Luke's just demonstrated is that he's creating the conditions so that as his sons grow, those conditions exist naturally for them. And it's phenomenally powerful, just as the negative power of man up, it can't exist in the conditions that Luke's created. And it empowers his sons to be able to communicate in a way that says, actually, your emotions are listened to. Not forcing you to talk. I'm letting you know that your feelings are validated and you can express them.
But it's true, and
it's phenomenal to hear, Luke.
Can I ask you?
Thank you very much. I do agree, because what we say about children. Sorry, Russ.
Carry on. You're the guest. Go on.
I'm just saying that with children and mental health, especially, and I have a little term where I say, without good mental health, all the lessons they're learning at school, you know, if they're suffering as they're older, they won't be able to do the things they want to do in life, because the mental health will put them down. So I think if mental health is taught a bit more in curriculum, which I know is starting to gradually get in now, it's so important, because it means that they'll talk about the mental health to get and achieve the things they want to do as well as they get older.
Well, just to give everyone a bit of a positive.
Mental health. We're going to read this out. I'll read it out.
Yeah, sorry to cover you both up, because this ties in perfectly. Perfect timing.
Yes. It's from Leslie Demisa.
Mental health and well-being is now part of the statutory curriculum in schools, primary and secondary. How well it's carried out is another matter. There's been no funding available to train teachers to do this. It's just an assumption on the part of a government that teachers will be able to do it. How could they? No matter how good they are, teachers and schools cannot right all the wrongs in society. That's quite right. I think there's many teachers just spending their own money to make sure the kids have got enough to eat at the moment. I've heard a few stories like that recently.
Yeah, that's exactly the point I was just about to make.
Where are we going to go with this? Now, let me ask, I'm going to ask a really difficult question. And if this was on mainstream, what I call inheritance media, then I'd be cancelled. In America, which is very split between left and right, and there's no middle ground. So you're either left or you're right, and they hate each other. And I've been saying for ages, they are itching to have a second American Civil War. They're itching for it. That's what they want. And you know, Americans usually get what they want. I'm going to say right, but you know, they're not fascists, for God's sake. This is just horrible media terms, but they're not Democrats. One of the things that they're going on about, and I'm just going to present the case, I'm not going to comment on my views on it, is the feminization of men, which is why I said I'd be cancelled if I did this outside of our own radio station. And they talk about this a lot. And there are some disgusting things that are going on that do make me furious. Such as, well, I'm just going to come out and say it, the normalization of paedophilia. The fact that they're not talking about it in terms of changing the language to make it. I mean, there's extraordinary stuff going on in America, and the people who are doing it, I'm sorry, they should be in prison. They should be in prison. But they've got into the media, they've got into the conversation. Anyway, so let's move that to one side, because either just shoot pedophiles or hang them. I don't care which. Doesn't bother me. You know, it doesn't. They're disgusting. There is no excuse. They're disgusting. So, and our children should always feel safe. Children should always feel safe. That's my golden rule, and it's a line in the sand, and I will not be moved from it. But this whole feminizing of it, where do you stand on that? Do you see where I'm coming? If it's too difficult a subject, move on. I don't care.
I'm not entirely sure what you mean. Can you put some more meat on the bone for that?
Oh, I wish I'd never started this now. In America, in America, because of the liberal elite and the liberal left, etc., some of whom are excellent and brilliant, and some of whom are raving mad, same as the right, same as you know, they're both, you know, somewhere in the middle ground are intelligent people trying to have a conversation, and they gather around them like magnets, people who are completely bonkers. That's all there is to it. They're just bonkers. They've made it the arguments completely stupid. Is the feminization of men, trying to move the differences between men and women. Men and women are different. They are.
I
There's
think,
no point in pretending.
Russ, that we have to put that scenario into its own context as well, because you have such extremity of view that any opinion can be used and weaponized against the opposite extremity. And I think that's one of the things that American approaches is now experiencing. That things are said simply to get the reaction from the opposite side, rather than have any meaningful or positive contribution to where everybody else actually lives in the reality of the scenarios in which they exist. So you have this situation where, as you say, though that polarized mindset is only ever going to be confrontational.
Yep.
And
there's
therefore,
no middle ground.
whatever is said has to be put into the context of, is this confrontational or is it meaningful? And those two...
See, it's got to the stage. I'm going to come back to paedophilia just for a second, because it's a slight adjunct to the main conversation. We didn't know where the show was going to go. You guys jumped on, took up my invitation. Everybody else is welcome. All you have to do literally today, because I deliberately didn't book any guests, just wanted to have an open chat, see where it went. And I love talking to Neil because he's just become one of the most interesting people I know. Just click on that. Well, I'm sorry, Neil, you have. There's no point, we've moved on, we've matured, we've changed as people. Life has changed us. And you have the choice, as I'm sure as Dave and Luke and everybody watching and listening around the world would agree, you can change you for the better, it can change you for the worse, or you can accept those changes and say, what am I going to do now? What am I going to give back? Or where do I want to take it? Paedophilia argument, right? There is no excuse.
No.
We can accept that. I put it along the same as walking with a gun in your hand down Oxford Street and randomly shooting people in the head. There's no excuse. That's it. Mm-hmm. There is no excuse for having sexual activity with children. It's disgusting. Mm-hmm. So when the gap between the left and the right, between Republicans and Democrats, is so big that when the Republicans come out and say, this is disgusting, there is no excuse. The liberal media, the inherited media, if you like, the traditional media, can't bring themselves, I can't believe what I'm saying, but it's true because I watch this all the time, can't bring themselves to agree. They have to dance around it, because if the Republicans say X, the other side has to take an opposing view. It kills them to be able to say, you're right. That's how far these polar opposites have become. Mm. And when you have no middle ground, as we don't have in Britain doesn't want a middle ground. Social media doesn't want a middle ground. The media don't want a middle ground.
Yeah, I agree.
It sows discontent. It sows anger. It sows division. And if you've got a divided country, it is so much more easy to manipulate because you're malleable, because you're angry the whole time.
And it relies on a lack of self-awareness of every individual as an individual. And one of the things that I'm really glad that Luke mentioned Andy's Man Club, and just to give them a shout, they're one of the nominees in APA's Ethical and Psychological Awards currently running. So massive shout out to them. But
so sorry, look what Aza's just commented. Because I could see, I was looking at you and you think, I was thinking inside, Russ, you're talking bollocks, but I'm not. And Aza Don Brown, this is for everyone on Deluxe Radio, I will read it out. He's Canadian by birth, but he lives in the northeastern United States. There are groups in Canada and the States that are pushing paedophilia as an acceptable form of sexuality. I didn't
what kind of response
make
are they
it up.
getting?
Huge. This is the problem, Neil. Huge.
It's disgusting. How can that be an acceptable form of sexuality? It's absolutely
I tell you why, Luke. I tell you why. Because you can lose it in all the other shit that's going on. Because they bring it on. Oh, I'm going to get controversial. I am sorry. You can say there are two sexes. There's male and there's female. And women can give birth, men can't give birth.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fact. That's a fact. But because these lines are deliberately getting so blurred, and because a tiny, 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 tiny percentage of the population have hijacked the media, and so it looks to the outside world and those who don't know how to read this as though millions of people believe this, where it's tiny. You can slip in under all this confusion. I mean, if I said this on mainstream media, what am I saying? There's two sexes, men and women. That's it. Am I saying people can be gay? Of course they can.
Mm.
Can you dress up? Of course you can.
Mm.
But all this I identify as a chihuahua bullshit is so under all this confusion and under the fear of being cancelled, which is a very real thing, and under the fear of a shitstorm on social media and getting pilloried like the town square, all that's missing is the burning torches and the pitchforks, people, as I'm sure Asa will back me up on this, are sneaking in. Well, paedophilia, it's just another form of sexual... Oh, and it's not. No, it's not. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
That's how it happens.
For me, I've always recognised it as a man. And I used to say this, and I've changed the way of thinking now, since really getting enrolled in men's mental health, is that I recognise myself as a man, but I used to say I have feminine traits. Now I've changed that now because I would say that I used to cry quite a lot, at different things. Was quite emotional, different things, and had my feelings hurt quite a lot, so I get emotional from that. No, I'm not. I'm a man with just different qualities. I'm a man.
And even if they were so-called feminine traits, so what? Do you know what I mean? I mean, any holistic practitioner would tell you that we've got both male and female energy. Everyone does inside themselves. You could argue that the male energy is focused, go-get, and female energy is more receptive and yielding. And men can be those things, and women can be those things. It's just the balance of which is most dominant in a person. There's no shame.
That's the key. That's the key word, Neil, is balance. The more psychologically aware we become of ourselves, the more balanced we become as our own individual, less impacted by the winds of change that blow around us. And it's the winds of change that are going on around us that we're all swinging around like we're in a hurricane.
Yeah, no one knows which way's up.
We don't know how to stand.
Let me read this out coming in from the States. Asa Don Brown. And it's addressed to you, Mr. Neil Long of New Morning.
Majority of individuals, says Asa Don Brown, are disturbed by this behaviour and ideological viewpoint in sexuality. Those pushing this agenda are part of a minority group. Well, I would hope so.
They are part, but my argument is this. If I'd have said to you 10 years ago that the media will buy anything now because they're so scared of offending anybody, the wind changes direction, I'm offended, it's somebody's fault. No, it's not. Bullshit.
But
the point is that's why I'm saying that this repulsive agenda gets mixed in and hidden and camouflaged with if I said to you 10 years ago, you can identify as anything, and you'd go, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. But I also
what are
think
you
that's
talking about?
But I think that's the importance of your station here and the work that other groups do around, because that's when you don't have to be scared about talking about the issues you're facing. With the media, you're right. If you say something to the media, say proper celebrities say something out of line to the media, that's their career finished. Absolutely, because you're right. The media has that balance, because if they have somebody that upsets them, obviously, if there was a newspaper or a magazine, they could go under, and the person who said it could be finished.
Well, I went
this
to
is the negativity of 24-hour news.
Yes, of course.
We've become so focused on the insanity of instantaneity.
Yeah. Oh, that's clever.
Say it again. It was
Agree with
very
that.
good.
I like that. Say that one again.
The insanity of instant-anity.
I like that.
Get
And
Dave
the
sleep,
thing is,
ladies
and
and
I think
gentlemen.
you used a key word as well, and you basically, or a key concept, I would say, Dave. You said people hold their own in because the world is always going to change, but the more we can stay balanced within ourselves and kind of, you know, not be too resistant, roll with it, take the direction we want. The middle. I'm not a Buddhist, but in Buddhism they've got a concept called the middle way. Either extreme is not going to work, but the middle way between the two normally does. And the more we can stay balanced between ourselves and find our own middle way, as it were, then it doesn't really matter what's going on outside of us because we're strong and grounded and balanced within ourselves. And all the personal development I've studied over the years, and it all talks about this. Start from yourself. It starts with you, self-mastery. You put your own oxygen mask on first, all of that. You can't change the world, but maybe you can change the way you see the world, if that makes sense.
I agree with that.
And then the world changes.
But we're
I
living in a
read
time.
Will
We're
Smith's
living in a
autobiography
time.
before the Oscar slap, and he said one thing which always stuck in my head is that when him and his wife went through marriage counselling, they had to put their priorities in a list, and he put himself number one, and his wife got upset by that. And he says, "No, I had to put myself number one because if I'm not number one first, I can't be a good husband. I can't be a good father. I can't be a good worker. I had to put myself number one to make sure that I'm fine for the other people who rely on me." And I have to admit, I totally agree with that. I never thought.
I agree. It's the difference between selfishness and self-care, if you like. Yeah.
She's disgusting and he's an idiot, and I will never watch another one of his films. And what he did at the Oscar, if they'd have been white, I'm just going to say it, right? The hoo-ha, every excuse in the world. It was shocking. It was unacceptable. Chris Rock behaved like a hero.
Yeah,
because the police dusted Chris Rock's face, didn't they? And they found Fresh Prince.
Yeah, I've heard that joke.
Come on.
Gentlemen, unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave you because I've actually got
Mr. Neil Long.
Yeah, brilliant. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave you. I've actually got to make some phone calls on my lunch break.
Don't show off that you have a life. Don't.
This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Congratulations on the funding, by the way. And please keep doing the work you're doing. And if we can support you in any way, just holler. All right.
I will do. And Russell will be pleased to know there's a sequel to the Mental Health Mould book coming soon as well.
Excellent. I love that book.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys.
Great. Bye.
Look, take care.
So there we go. So this is Francois says, so interesting and stop it, Russell. So interesting, enjoying listening to you all today. I love Russ when he's controversial. Well, yeah, I'll come back to that in a sec. Your guests today are very interesting. And Neil, you are fab. I wish my partner was alive today listening. Oh, bless you, Francois.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah, well, I can relate to that.
Francois.
The thing, I'm not trying to be. It's interesting when it says the word controversial. There are people who are professional gobs on sticks. We see them on the media all the time. They wheel them out all the time. And it's like, oh, Christ. And they're just there to stir the pot. And I'm not interested in that. I've never been interested. I just give a view. You can agree with it, don't agree with it. It's, I'm not going to try and convert you. I'm not going to be foaming at the mouth, etc., etc. I'm just not. But
the power of the minority.
This is what I don't understand. If you go onto Twitter as an unaware newbie, and like one of my best mates, I get so upset. I say to him, Ray, why do you engage with these? Don't engage with them. If you don't engage with them, right, it doesn't affect you. It's crap. You just look at it and go, and you move on with your day. Because they would drag you into the vortex of their horrible
Don't wrestle with
life.
a pig. You'll get dirty, and the pig likes it.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. It's. I think the point about controversial is this, Francois. I don't understand, and I discuss this a lot. And I'm going across so many areas. I'm not just being specific. We're a tiny, tiny, tiny minority of the population globally or in this country or in America can control the conversation. And they turn what was a few years ago utter fantastical nonsense into, yes, this is the
But
truth.
again, it comes down
It's
to
not
us.
the
If it's
truth.
about retaining our
truth.
sense of
The
self
silent
through all this
majority.
and putting our own oxygen mask on, then why would it matter even what they're saying? If you see what I mean,
It won't matter. But Neil,
the problem is
Neil,
people
you're
believe
right.
it.
It doesn't matter what they're
People
saying,
hold the media
except
in such high
Ugh,
esteem, they will believe
precisely.
anything they read. And that's where the change has to come in, this kind of questioning. Wait a minute. Who are they writing for? Who are they representing? Follow the money trail back.
What, follow the money, number one. What is the agenda? Number
Exactly.
two. What's the subtext of all of this?
Exactly.
Number four. Who the bloody hell is bankrolling it? Who is bankrolling it? And the big question, which overarches everything, is why are they bankrolling it? What do they want to gain out of it? And what's their ultimate goal? What do they
to go back
want to
to your
achieve?
previous point, I agree. Beautifully stated. And to go back to your previous point, let's separate natural and normal. It might be, you were saying that in America, they're normalizing pedophilic behaviors, right? That's not natural. And when you call it out for being not natural, then you have to apologize for being controversial. That's crazy.
Yeah, oh, no, you do. You do. This is the point. This is the, we'll bring you on in a second.
That is absolutely freaking crazy.
But
we can all do something about it by controlling the intake of media.
If I went on to LBC, GB News, Talk TV, I mean, I do all of them. Well, apart from, yeah, I think I've been in all of them, right? But if I went on and said what I've just said, but what am I saying? What am I saying?
It's that old, unfashionable thing of telling the truth.
They don't like it. It's not convenient. Liz Saul joins us.
Hello.
Now, live
Hello,
from
how are
somewhere
you?
or other. We're all good. Liz, what brings you to our happy home?
It's interesting listening to the discussion between what was four of you guys, because I think it's so important, and I always advocate that, you know, blokes might laugh and joke about talking and talking properly, but it's like they'll joke about it and then not do something about it. And there's so many guys that I have known that have sadly taken their own life because they felt they had no one to talk to. And I've just come off a night shift, so excuse my rather random appearance. But what was interesting is the guys I was on night shift with last night.
What do you do, Liz? I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do.
I'm a journalist.
Okay. Blimey, O'Reilly.
So during the night shift, two of the guys had gone into the studio. One produced the bulletin, one reading the bulletin. They seemed to be in there an awful long time. When they came out, I made a joke about it, and they said, "You know what? We were actually having a really good chat." And I thought, that's good. I'm glad they did that because, as I say, what was said in the studio stays in the studio. I didn't need to know about it, but I do know separately they've alluded to various issues they've got going on. And I thought if they're able to quietly just chew the fat for about 20 minutes, then that really helps. It's not like blokes need to suddenly display their feelings all over the place, because equally I know some guys who are like, "Oh, I'm not emotional, I don't do this, I'm a bloke." But even if you do it quietly, nobody's going to laugh at you. Nobody's going to mock you.
Precisely.
Liz, I think you have highlighted one massive key thing that is very rarely spoken about, is men do talk when they believe they are going to be listened to, when they are going to be heard, when they're going to be accepted. This myth that has been around for decades, men don't talk. Men don't talk in the way that society tells them they should talk. And therefore, somehow men have been doing it all wrong. Well, no, men haven't been doing it wrong.
No.
Men do it the way that works for them. And yes, they can do it better. And yes, there's a whole heap of things that we can do to facilitate that. But we've got to stop telling men they're doing something wrong, because invariably that information comes from those minority groups that Russ is talking about.
Yeah, I remember Liz said something. Liz and I were having a conversation, one of the deep ones that we have from time to time. And I said, I'd love to get some more mental health ideas on the show and talk to this person that does this and that person that does tapping. And Liz said, it's also really, really good just to be a model of where men can openly talk. Just the sight of men openly talking and being open with each other.
Well, that was my driving
is a really
That was
healthy
my
model. Yeah.
goal to when I co-founded this with Howard.
I'd
It
say you've
was
achieved it.
Nowhere near where I want it to be, but it's a start. You know,
And sometimes
it's a
men can
start.
get in trouble for trying to be helpful as well. Like get in trouble, you know, you try and tidy up and you get in trouble for it. That can happen sometimes as well.
Liz,
that was just a private. That was a private
Liz,
joke.
you're a journalist, okay? You're part of the what used to be called the Fourth Estate. How did we get to the stage where people who quite clearly are as mad as a box of frogs are listened to and seen as the great gurus, whereas you should be turning around and saying, get some help, you're barking mad, stop it, I'm not listening to your crap anymore, you're just an idiot. When did we get to that stage and how? Why are we scared of these people? Why?
Yeah.
Why are we frightened of them?
There's no
Liz?
particular answer, because it could be for different reasons. It could be your upbringing. It could be you're told to be seen and not heard. I came across
I'm
some
talking about
old
your no.
papers.
And I'm being very specific about you as a journalist. When did the media bend over and just take it from people who have they're just talking nonsense? When did that happen? Why?
24-hour news.
Do you see
When
my
we had a
point?
news-
I'm not sure you're seeing my point, Liz.
And
you see what I'm
no,
saying?
I was going to say that the news in this country, particularly broadcast news, is hugely regulated, much more so than in the States, much more so than even British newspapers. You look at the various regulations, and BBC, I'm a BBC journalist, we get all sorts of criticism levelled at us. And actually, I'm very restricted by what I can say when I'm reading the news, when I'm writing the news. I only get 4 or 5 minutes in our bulletins.
Yeah.
And yet,
But
because
why
of the
do they
different
get?
platforms, we get all sorts levelled at us.
That. It's not my first radio. I get all that. Why?
Psychologically,
How did they get
Russ,
so much
depends on
airtime? How did these minorities?
I've got a
To
theory.
me, it's like the flat earthers.
Oh, watch the
Why do they
Netflix
get so much
documentary. It's
airtime?
hilarious. Well, I've got a theory. I was watching, coincidentally, last night, Russell Howard's Good News. And I think Russell Howard is an amazing comedian. But he did this whole skit, and it was all animated the way that it did. It was absolutely brilliant. And it showed a journalist at a newspaper after everything went online. And the boss is chewing her out because readership has gone down because everybody's online. And the stuff she's putting online isn't working. So he says, get me bums on seats, eyeballs on screens, or you lose your job. And someone's chewing him out, and the chain of pain comes down.
Sure.
So she goes out and finds the worst, the most angry, and he used the term hate farming. So she will then find that, it gets clicks, and there's been studies to prove that the negative stuff gets clicks. She gets a pat on the back and keeps her job. The boss is happy, everyone's happy.
And then the
By
shareholders
focusing entirely on the worst things that have happened that day, which is way out of balance. Way out of balance.
And all of this stemmed from having to fill a news cycle that went from being 4 hours to coming down to being 20 minutes. And when you have a news cycle that's 4 hours, as it was before we went to 24-hour news, you could contextualize what you were being told as an individual. Right? When you are being told the same thing every 20 minutes, you lose the context of what is happening.
You do. Oh, beautifully
and
said.
equally,
And we learn
news
through
is
repetition
instant.
as well. And if we're fed the same things again and again and again and again and again and again, people will start to believe it. And that, so people are essentially...
But people want all the details instantly. That's what happens today, and it's instantly available. If they don't find it in the rolling news service, they'll go online.
I'm going to jump in because we're running out of time. But instantly available, which means people have not had time to process it properly. They
Exactly.
will buy any old crap that is sold to them, and they won't question it. You only have to see what happened at the Palace recently to say, whoa, let's just take a breath here and see why is somebody mic'd up? You go to an event and you're mic'd up.
Yeah.
What's that agenda about?
Essentially,
join
we've
the
sold
dots.
our soul.
We're out of time, gang. We're out of time. Liz Saul, Luke, when he was here, Dave Sleet, you are always welcome. Liz, you're always welcome. Neil,
Thank you.
You're a breath of fresh air. You know that, Neil. We'll be back Friday. Until then, try and stay out of trouble.
Love you,
Bye.
hug